Well, hello everyone. Welcome back for week 4, module 4 of the free entrepreneurship funding program. If we think back, we started with the first module where we learned about business plans, the importance of business plans, the key elements of a business plan, and we should have been working with you to create yours. Then came module 2, week 2 means the same thing. And at that point, we talked about business formation. What is it that we need to have to essentially have the foundation of a fundable business? We talked about the address, the filing with the Secretary of State, making sure that we're compliant at the state and federal level, having the EIN as well as the bank account. So we covered that in week 2, and we should have been assisting each of you in creating a fundable business infrastructure after that session. And then module 3/week 3, we talked about more about business credibility, the 3 C's: credit, collateral, capacity. Talked about the importance of financials, a balance sheet, having collateral in the balance sheet. And so we should have helped you after the third session. So here we are to the tail end. We're at the last session. And so week 4, we call business funding. Our goal, obviously, is to work with each of you to legally and ethically have a fundable business. And the truth is, it's not that difficult. There's a checklist. There is a formula for funding. So legally and ethically, anyone can have a fundable business. So today we're going to wrap up and pull together the pieces so we can prepare for what we call the lender match. We have a proprietary software that once we have the data collected from each of you, we can put the data into the software. And what it allows us to do is to identify the right lender and the right loan program, because different lenders have different loan programs. So that's the end goal. So let's go ahead and go through our funding checklist. And then what we're going to do is help you set up a Dropbox. Well, we'll set it up for you, a Dropbox folder, and you'll upload your documents in so we can make sure that we have everything and they're ready to go. So let's go ahead and look at the funding checklist. So the first item on the checklist is the business plan, and I just made reference to that. That's what we handled in the first session, and so we understand what that is. Secondly, we need to have a good address, not a residential, not a post office box, and it needs to be a true commercial lease with a commercial address with a lease, because most lenders will ask for a copy of the lease. So it's not just, do you have an address on paper, but can you back it up? Can you substantiate it? Can you document it? And again, that's very consistent with what we're doing together, is pulling together the documentation legally and ethically to meet the underwriting criteria. So we learned about this in module 2. You should have this. If not, get with us and we can provide that for you if you're missing it. Obviously, this needs to be in the name of the business that's applying for funding, not some other business's name. And there's some key considerations, some key provisions that have to be included. But we talked about that back in week 2. As I made reference to a moment ago, we also need to have an entity that we're applying for funding. When I say compliant, we're talking about if it's been around prior to this year, has it filed tax returns, is it in good standing with federal and state governments? We need to have a balance sheet, which is one of the financial statements, as is the profit and loss. So back in module 3, week 3, we talked about financials. So the balance sheet shows the assets and liabilities of your business. And we need to make sure that it has adequate collateral for the loan. If we don't have this, no worries, we can get that straightened out for you. Profit and loss, also called income statement, those mean the same, another financial report. So these two kind of go together. A lot of times we'll use QuickBooks or software like that to generate our reports. And I know, so often people will say, well, my business is new. This doesn't affect me. This isn't relevant to me. I don't need these things because I have a new business. That's a horrible mistake to make. No, we need financials, even if it is a new business. We had recently worked on a big $5 million loan. And so it was kind of interesting. The client's business had been around for several years, but it hadn't been making money. And so in some cases, it's interesting when we're working with clients. Sometimes, I'm sorry, back up to here. Sometimes if the client has an existing entity, it's okay to use their existing entity, but in some cases, it's easier just to start a new entity if there are issues with it. But I digress a bit. Tax returns. And obviously, if the business just started this year, then tax returns are irrelevant. If the business was in existence prior to this year, typically the lenders are going to ask for tax returns. I work with a lot of small businesses say, well, this doesn't apply to me. My business didn't make any money, so I don't have any tax returns, so it's just fine. Well, our process that we're going through isn't about your opinion or my opinion. It's about what lenders want to see so we can accomplish the goal of getting funding. And so we may not want to be quick to think that just because your business didn't make any money that you shouldn't have filed a tax return, and that won't be an issue. But again, we can work through that individually. Business phone number, business website, and email for credibility purposes, if I can highlight that. And if you need help with those, we can help you with that. So that's not a problem. Business licenses. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone, but for instance, if you're a plumber, then having a license to be a plumber matters, right? So some industries, some professions have licenses associated, some don't. I understand that. But if it is a regulated industry that requires a license, then the lender would want to see that you have that. Why would that matter? Well, otherwise, we could go get the loan, and if we were unable to get the license, we would never be able to legally operate the business. Therefore, we'd never have any income. Therefore, we probably wouldn't be able to pay the loan back. So if the industry or occupation that you're in requires licensure, that needs to be accomplished going into it. I run into clients on occasion say, well, I don't have the money to get the license. So we'll probably in those cases need to work on some smaller initial funding initially. And then before we go for the larger loans, we want to have the license in place. Absolutely. Need to have a business bank account. And that, of course, is relevant. There's some nuances with the bank account. How long's it been open? What's the average balance? What's our bank rating? And we can talk about that individually, but having at least a business bank account is certainly a requirement for a business loan. Most business lenders will not fund a business loan into a personal account. So one more reason we need a business bank account. We also need to be able to send and receive wires on that because it's very likely that the money from the loan proceeds, the money coming to you, to your business, is going to come via wire. We have one client who's he presents himself as very sophisticated, but come to find out at the 11th hour, his bank account didn't allow him to send or receive wires. So we want to make sure we have that in place. Creditworthiness, and I understand there's personal creditworthiness and business creditworthiness. Different lenders have different requirements, and so there's not some minimum necessarily that has to exist overall, but we do need to know where we're at on this because that's going to allow us to identify the right lender for the lender match, and that kind of comes through down here, the soft pull, but we'll get to that in a moment. In terms of ownership data, the general rule of thumb is any business that has multiple owners, any owner that has 20% or more ownership usually have to be included in the loan package. Not always, but usually. So we will help everyone complete a PFS, personal financial statement. A PFS is almost the same as a balance sheet, but the balance sheet's for the business. The PFS is for the individual, but we'll help you with that, no concern. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, the soft pull, the soft credit pull. Different lenders have different credit requirements. As I mentioned a moment ago, some don't care about personal credit at all, some do. but it's important for us to have that data set because, again, the goal is to go to the lender match, which we talk about over here. So if we don't have the data, our ability to get a match, an accurate match, is flawed. I'm older than probably most of you, so I've been married for 28 years. I've never been on a dating site, but I can imagine if you went on some of these popular dating sites, you put in what you're looking for in a person, and there's like a match. I know you can search for cars, right? You can go in and you go into BMW and you say, here's all the colors and features I want, and they try to find you one, and they say, well, this car matches 91% of your request, or this car matches 86%. That's in general what we have in our lender match technology, but we need the data set from the client to be able to get that match, to know where to go. And we've got some great relationships with some great lenders. So in general, yeah, I'll say in general, we can get anyone funding, but we need to have a fundable business first. So don't be thrown off of saying, oh, what if my credit's not good enough? And credit also doesn't have a memory. So even if credit's not so good now, that doesn't mean that it can't be much different quickly. So that's what we need to do. We've covered through the 4 weeks the concept of building a fundable business. Hopefully we've had some valuable and stimulating conversations, plural. But right now what we need to do is need to have you call us. Madison is our workshop coordinator. Chances are she'll answer the phone, or if not, she'll call you back. Madison's going to help you schedule a call with one of our funding advisors, myself or one of the others. We're going to set up a Dropbox folder, no charge to you. And then we need to upload the documents that we have, and anything that we're missing, then of course we can put together. And that allows us to put the data into our lender match software, and then find the right lender for your circumstances. So let me make that a little bit smaller. So again, what a pleasure to work with you. We are looking for more financial literacy educators. If you'd be willing to help us go out and teach this, or at least facilitate the instructions. We teach this in person, we teach it online, we teach it live, we teach it on demand, a lot of different options. Just reach out to us, let us know what we can do to assist you. Thank you for your time, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.